Hello, I'm Robin. Welcome to Bookspin. Scanners Live in Vain is one of Cordwainer Smith's best known and much loved stories. And again, we've got quite an interesting publication history in this one. This was, in fact, his first published story in the Instrumentality of Mankind universe. Prior to this, the only SF story he had published was War Number 81Q in his high school magazine in 1928, when he was just 15. Scanners Live in Vain he wrote much later, in 1945. But for whatever reason, it took him quite a long time before he was able to get it published. And it made its eventual first appearance in print in Fantasy Book number 6 in January 1950 and featured on the cover illustration of that issue. So this story pretty much kick-started Paul Linebarger's SF writing career and was in fact the first time he published under the name of Cordwainer Smith. And a great story it is too, with some really strange and quite unsettling concepts and an exciting and engaging narrative to boot. So this story opens in a domestic scene with our protagonist, Martel, apparently deeply unhappy with his state of being. And he's attempting to persuade his wife to let him crunch. What is crunching? Well, to explain that concept, first you have to understand just what kind of being Martel is. And this whole concept is beautifully revealed through the interaction and conversation that follows with his wife after she lets him crunch. Before we move on to the following scene and the meat of the story starts to unfold, I'll try not to spoil any plot points here, but the central concept behind the story does require a bit of explanation before we can understand what crunching is. So Martel is a scanner. He's no ordinary man. His wife is a normal human being, but he is not. Scanners are a class of humans who have undergone a radical operation on their bodies to sever all of their sensory organs from the brain. That is, except for their eyes. So what this means is scanners are immune to pain, but they can also no longer hear, feel, or smell anything. They can only see. So in modifying their bodies in this way, this allows them to travel into outer space without suffering pain or death, which is the fate that will be inflicted on any conscious human who tries to do this. So any normal conscious human would die in the great pain of space, as it's called in the story. So basically they allow space travel to happen in this world. Normal humans can still go up into space, but they have to be put in suspended animation. But they need conscious people on board the vessels in order to make space navigation and travel possible. So that's why scanners are necessary in this world. Now, to make up for the senses that the scanners have lost, they communicate with each other via portable tablets. Okay. And every scanner has an electronic box installed on their chest, right? And they can use this to monitor and to regulate their bodily functions in ways which aren't possible to normal humans. And it also allows them to do things with their bodies which normal humans can't. So you can think of this as a kind of extreme cyborgization. But it's a pretty rough deal, I think, because you lose a huge part of normal human experience. So it's an immense sacrifice on the human body. So scanners exist as a special class of humanity who have volunteered to have their bodies transformed in this way. And because they make space travel happen, which is essential to this civilization, they are revered by the instrumentality for their supreme self-sacrifice. But the scanners aren't the only ones who have been cyborgized in this way. There's also the Habermans, who are convicted criminals who have undergone the same procedure as part of their punishment, and they are supervised by the scanners, which, if you ask me, is some very questionable ethics. But in any case, it's a rough existence. The one small respite which scanners get, but the Habermans don't, but the scanners at least, is every so often they are allowed to crunch, which is a temporary process which restores their bodily senses back to normal and allows them to experience life like a normal human being for a short while. So, back to Martel. He crunches at the start of the story so he can spend some quality time with his wife. Okay? But his time with her is cut short when he is summoned to an emergency meeting of the scanners. This meeting has been called because news has emerged of a scientist who has discovered a way to eliminate the pain of space, i.e., he's developed a method for space travel which will allow normal, conscious human beings to travel into space. And this would basically make the scanners obsolete. Hence the title, Scanners Live in Vain. Now, how the scanners react to the situation and Martel's own response is the key driver of the moral conflict that follows in this story. So, I don't want to give away any more than that. It's a very bold and imaginative tale. I think the whole concept of the scanners and the Habermans is really fascinating and also very chilling. This idea that this kind of mutilation and cyborgization of the human body is an accepted cost of travelling into space. I think it's quite a disturbing facet of instrumentality civilization. And the fact that it can be both a severe criminal punishment, but also a great honour, all the more so. So, strange and unsettling, definitely. But I don't think this story is quite as surreal as some of Smith's later published stories. So there's no talking dogs or sentient Nazi robots or telepathic space cats or anything like that. But it is a well-written, absorbing story with a very satisfying finish. A classic sci-fi short story, well worth your time.